right, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I so can relate to the next topic we're going to talk about. It is about pulling yourself back up and getting on with the things that you really want to do with your life. Wendy Sachs is on the phone. My gosh, she's got some credentials. She's an Emmy Award-winning network television producer, a former Capitol Hill press secretary. I'd love to hear some of her thoughts on what's going on right now, but that's not where we're going. We got a book to talk about. The book is called Fearless and Free: How Smart Women Pivot and Relaunch Their Careers. She's been on CNN's Headline News, the Huffington Post, Good Morning America, the Today Show, Fox News, MSNBC. So obviously it's easy to say it's an honor to have her on the show with us this morning. Wendy Sachs. Good morning, Wendy. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor being on your show.
Oh, thank you. And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from South Orange, New Jersey, outside of New York.
Orange. All right. I want to tell you something before you say anything else. Today is National Get Up Day. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. What is that all about?
I know. Well, wait till you hear. National Get Up Day is an opportunity, according to their website, an opportunity to share inspiring stories of perseverance. It's a reminder.
Oh, I like that.
It's perfect. It's a reminder to pick ourselves up when we've fallen and give up. How about that, huh? Give it another go, it says here. That must be from Britain. Give it another go.
Yeah.
Give it another go.
Fantastic.
So I think we all go through these things. And my biggest fear in my life has always been that I'm going to be that old guy, and I'm there, that old guy who says, you know what, the couch is my most safe place. I'm just going to stay on this couch and never try to do anything again, simply because maybe I felt defeated or whatever. And I love the idea that, no, it doesn't matter. You got 3 seconds left. You can do something with those 3 seconds.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think so many of us can relate to feeling rejected, to feeling down and out. I read an entire chapter about getting fired. I call it "Congratulations, You're Fired," because that is actually what's happening in some of these startup companies where it's a euphemism. They tell you that you're moving on, that you're having a graduation ceremony. They're not actually saying that you're fired. I was told when I was fired about a year or so ago that we were just separating. It was sort of like,
oh, no.
Gwyneth Paltrow and consciously uncoupling. It's like this very strange euphemism, and that's some of the terminology that's being used today in our sort of millennial era of the startup space. And the truth is, it really does hurt. But you know what? There is something about embracing that failure and being able to pick yourself up again, and grit and resilience, and moving forward. And truthfully, and I don't want to be Pollyanna about this, but there's so much that comes out of that experience. And I really say I couldn't even have written this book if I hadn't failed so many times in the past.
Yeah, okay. We can share our fired stories. So I have one. In radio, I was let go, not because I was doing anything wrong, but because the company was sold, and so they kind of... Anyway, so... I was like, what do I do now? And I looked around and I saw, some artwork that I had done, and I said, oh, let me try this. And I never thought of myself as an artist who made money from his art, but I actually found a way to do it. I live in a tourist area, so it was easy. I went to a hotel and I sketched people's pictures for a while until I got a real job.
That's great. You know what? I love that. And it's so many of us have these side hustles right now, it sort of sounds like what you were doing, right, with your art. And even as people are looking to switch jobs, let's say they're not forced out of their job, but they're getting a little antsy, and having a side hustle is a great thing to be able to fall back on, and then to be able to think if you can really make some money out of it. It's a great place to take it and see if you can really do something with it.
The subtitle is How Smart Women Pivot and Relaunch Their Careers. Did you focus on women in the book?
I did. You write about what you know, and I am a woman, and that is something
yes,
that
you are.
Yes, I am. And I think that writing through the lens of being a woman, look, we approach our careers very differently.
Right.
And so much of this comes from confidence, quite frankly. And the root of everything, the root of creating change and momentum and moving forward and seizing opportunity, you have to feel confident. And when I started really exploring this subject of our careers and our confidence, what I really turned up is that there are a lot of studies that show that, frankly, men at least project more confidence than women, And there's a very well-regarded study that men will apply for a job if they meet 60% of the qualifications, whereas a woman will only apply if she meets 100% of the qualifications. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, really interesting. So women want to be perfect. We don't want to fail. We really want to get it right. Whereas guys are more apt to raise their hand and go for it and, take on that promotion without saying, I don't know if I can really handle this, or try for that new job.
Right.
Right?
But
women just tend to be a little bit more squeamish about raising their hand and really taking that leap. And that's where I'm talking to the ladies out there, saying we need to take risks. When you take risks, you build confidence, and that's the key to all of this.
I'm so glad you're saying that. And I have one observation now, and I don't know if this is fair or not, but this is what I think I've observed, is that when a man is the one making the decisions as to whether you're promoted or not, and he promotes a man who's got 60% of the qualities, he knows that man probably can't do it all, but he'll learn it. He understands the fake it till you make it idea.
That's right.
But for some reason, and this is where I think it might be unfair, we sort of hire a woman and think, okay, she's got to do it perfectly. And we know that she feels like one little mistake and she's a broken fingernail and we're going to fire her. But that may not be true, but I think that's the belief, right?
There's no doubt there's gender bias in the workplace, and there's something that people talk about these days called unconscious bias, where you're not really consciously discriminating against a woman, but there is something, the way that our culture, has trained us to look at leadership, to look at confidence, right? I mean, we certainly saw it in the election, where, a man can be, finger thrusting and pounding the podium, and that looks very manly, that's very alpha, we like that.
Right.
But, Hillary Clinton, whether you like her or don't like her, even the people who loved her would comment on the fact that she wasn't smiling enough, or her voice was too shrill, or, so we look at it through a different lens. We look at leadership in different terms, and all of that, needs to be reframed. So we start seeing women's strengths. Women are not men. We do not pound podiums, and if we do, we would never get as far as, a Donald Trump or even a Bernie Sanders, because it's just not, we don't like the way that looks, and we don't like the way that sounds.
But leadership comes because of accomplishments, and sometimes people look at accomplishments as bragging, but you tell people how to brand yourself without bragging, but you still need to have that track record.
That's right. I mean, that's another. Particularly in this day and age, we are all our own brands, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people. There's a lot of, and I don't want to say this is just a gender thing, but definitely a lot of women don't like to come off as very boastful and bragging, but we have to actually put out there in the universe and in social channels and let people know what it is that we're doing, or we're never going to be visible. We're not going to be top of mind when someone is thinking, oh, I need to hire for this marketing position. Who should I go to? Unless you're out there, no one's going to know that it exists. So there's something in that branding. There's something in that chapter that I wrote about, which is about having. And this, I take this term from another writer, Jessica Bennett, who wrote about something called the Feminist Fight Club, which is a new book for millennial women. And she talks about having a boast bitch, and this is the person who is like your best friend out there, or even your mother, or a colleague of yours who can help share your greatness with the world. And having that one step removed, having that boast person behind you where it's not yourself, can just feel a lot more palatable.
Wow.
It does, truly, because people hate it when you start bragging about yourself, because then they'll say, oh, you're so vain. How can you possibly promote others or the job, so we're going to get somebody else.
That's right. And so by having someone else who can help raise you and raise your visibility. And by the way, this was happening in the Obama administration. The women of the White House realized early on that they were a minority, and they started doing something that they called the amplification effect. So when they'd be sitting in a meeting and the president was ignoring them, and other people in the senior level staff were ignoring them, and let's say Sarah said something. Well, Jane in the room would say, as Sarah just said before, and would bring it back to create the ownership. And it worked. And it turns out President Obama started inviting these women to more meetings and started asking them questions. He didn't even realize of his unconscious bias that was happening. But this amplification effect. The women pointing out what the other women were saying in the room. Also, so the guys in the room didn't steal those ideas. Because that too happens.
That too happens.
Women in the workforce, that happens.
Oh, that too happens. Yeah, you've been in broadcasting, so you know. I mean, the Ann Curry story. I mean, no offense against Savannah. Is that her name, Savannah?
Mm-hmm.
The lady?
Yep.
But yep. I mean, it was like, wow, how did they miss up? This woman, Ann Curry, should really have had that position. I don't know if it was some man saying she wasn't cute enough. I always thought she was attractive, but that shouldn't even have played a role. It didn't play a role. It didn't play a role with Tom Brokaw. Nobody seemed to care.
I know.
Yeah, but maybe that's exclusive to this media that we do. I mean, not radio so much, but
I love the cover of your book because you have the word fearful in black, and then over the full you write the word less in big bold white letters, and I love that. Fear less and free. It's like very subliminal when a person is looking at the cover.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, that's intentional. You know what? I think we're at a time where we want women to be fierce and brave and bold and go out there, and it's really important. It's changing the whole paradigm of how women present to the world and how we think about ourselves and how we go for stuff. I think all of that is very it's super relevant to what's happening and to how women need to look at themselves and project. So fearless.
In the workplace, the competitive element of getting a job used to be that women were competing against women, men were competing against men. But in today's world, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like we're all competing against each other. Not in a bad way, but there's a job opening. Let's say you want it and I want it. We're both going to compete with each other, and it has nothing to do with our gender.
That's right. I mean, we really are in a time when, more women are graduating from law school than men. There are more women in the workforce. But at the same time, going back to sort of opportunities and gender bias in the workplace, women still need to, they need to lean in. They need to raise their hand and go for those jobs, because initially women start out at the same level as men. And then as time goes on, we start bleeding a lot of female talent, often to motherhood. Women often leave the workforce because they have children. And so we are still seeing not very many women at the top in senior leadership positions, and that is also a really big problem.
Yeah, it's a tough call too. When you have children, you have to raise the children.
Exactly.
But at the same time, you want to build your momentum, as you say in the book, and that could put a real crimp in the building of momentum.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It really does. I have a chapter called Getting Back In, because about half of women do take time off after they have children, and they might think that they're only going to take, a year or two, and that can turn into 5 or 10 years. And then it's like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I need to get back in. Maybe they got divorced, they have college bills to pay, or they're just obviously wanting to get back into the workforce and support themselves again. Can be very challenging, but there's interesting things happening right now with all of these new platforms, like a LinkedIn for women. There's a few different of these online networks that are helping bring women back into the workforce after taking time out. And they're matching with companies that realize that they've lost all of this female talent, and they need to bring them back in, because more diversity is actually it's great for business.
Wendy Sachs is our guest. Her website is wendysachs.com, and the book is called Fearless and Free: How Smart Women Pivot and Relaunch Their Careers. If you are, can you stay with us through the break? I want to come back, and we've got some more questions. Are you okay with that, Wendy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we'll take a break, and we will be right back with Wendy Sachs. This is WOCA.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accidents. A nice Wednesday with sunshine at a high of 72 to 76. Wednesday night will be clear and cool with a low of 44 in a few inland locations to 52 along the coast. Thursday, sunshine and some clouds. Another nice day, high 74 to 78. And on Friday, mostly sunny and pleasantly warm, high 76 to 80. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Hi, my name is Erica Olstein. I'm a doctor of acupuncture and oriental medicine. So, you used to be wired, now you're just tired. You used to be thin, but now you're the heaviest you've ever been. You don't necessarily always have to take a med if your thyroid is playing dead. If you have a thyroid disorder, an acupuncture visit may be in order. Come visit me, your primary care physician, Erica Olstein, at A Better You Healthcare. Call me at 352-615-5566.
If you or a loved one is suffering with knee, shoulder, neck or back pain, plantar fasciitis, peripheral neuropathy, and even tennis elbow, and would like to learn about how there are treatments that may benefit you, go to drjuanyordan.com, then listen in on the first and third Thursday at 10 a.m. and hear from health professionals doing these treatments and patients who have benefited from them. First and third Thursdays, 10 a.m. Next Generation MD, right here on The Source.
Sunday is Super Bowl 51, and Honey Baked Ham has teamed up with WOCA to give one lucky listener all the fixings for a fabulous Super Bowl party for 20 people. Sandwiches, sides, soft drinks, plates, napkins, utensils, even a cookie or a brownie. Honey Baked Ham can make any day feel like a party, and all you have to do is call in and register to win. Call 732-8000 right now. Leave your name and number, and Friday during Fun with Joe, we'll announce the winner. It's a Super Bowl spectacular from WOCA and Honey Baked Ham. Yum.
Stay informed on everything going on in the Villages with the Village Spectator newspaper. The Village Spectator is exclusively devoted to the Villages with news, commentary, and more. And yes, they have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask is that you tell them where you heard about them. Call Tom's Picks at 804-1223 and pick up your copy of the Village Spectator today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
All right, 21 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Wendy Sachs is on the phone, and she's got all kinds of credentials. Trust me, she's done it all, and we're honored to have her on our show. The book is called Fearless and Free, How Smart Women Pivot and Relaunch Their Careers. You know, you mentioned earlier that in the meeting room, well, in the White House, you said you wanted to make sure the men weren't stealing the women's ideas. And I one thing I wanted to say about that is, what was I going to say, Robert? I forget what I was going to say. But you know, Robin and I work together, and I never ever, correct me if I'm wrong, I hope I don't do this, but Robin comes up with ideas, and a lot of times people will think that it was my idea, and I will never I'll never take credit for something.
And vice versa.
Yeah,
they
Robin
think it's
does.
my idea. It's like, no, and I'm, first one to say, nope, not mine.
But I think that does happen, so.
And you were talking off the break about words.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that women do in conversation in our language that diminishes our power before we even start. And I'm going to give you even a personal backstory here. I was told at one of the companies that I was working for that I came across, and by the way, I was working remotely. The company was based outside of Boston, and I was working in our New York office. And so much of the communication that I had with the people was on the phone. And I was told that I was very brash, that I came across as like very strident and very brash. By the way, these terms are used against women all the time. I mean, there's so many studies that show that women in reviews, you come off as direct, and they think, you're obnoxious. They think that you're too harsh. They think, they do not like you. And so I took that very personally because it seemed like a personal attack. And my boss, who would travel and visit me, said, they don't see you smiling. I get it. You're not that way, but you got to dial it back. Now, men are really not told to dial back, but okay. So I had a colleague of mine who would always say, sorry. And she was blonde and she was petite, and no one ever thought that she was too brash. I ever accused her of being too bitchy or too harsh. And so I started adopting that sorry. And I actually moved into a different job. I went to a different company, and it was a lot of men there. And it was an advertising agency, and I kept using sorry, and it worked like a charm. And it was just it was almost a filler. Yeah, it was a filler. It was like this social lubricant. Like, sorry, can you tell me where I need to be going? Sorry. Anyhow, at the same time, the same advertising agency, Gray Advertising, came out with an ad for Pantene for the shampoo. And it was all about sorry. It was about this trend that women are saying sorry all the time. And it was like, sorry, basically, we're sorry for taking up space. Like we're sitting on a subway, and a man bumps into us, and we say sorry.
Right, that's Robin. That's Robin.
Right?
Wait,
right?
yeah.
We apologize.
Oh my
we
gosh.
Apologize.
Oh my gosh. I was in the grocery store with Robin. Can I tell you the story? I was in the grocery store with Robin. There was a rude guy. He bumped Robin with his shopping cart. And Robin said, "Oh, my fault. I'm sorry." I said, it was not your fault. That guy hit you. Oh my God! So I'm confused. Are you advising that they say I'm sorry more often, or
No. So I scrubbed sorry. I dropped sorry.
Yeah.
As soon as this ad came out, I recognized that yes, maybe I did. I looked softer. I looked gentler. I was not nearly as direct. I was also not myself. Okay, and I was apologizing when I should not be apologizing. I didn't do anything wrong. And there are other words aside from the whole sorry thing that's happening, which is also sort of very British. And I think it was just this it was a very British sort of linguistic tool that, trend that a lot of us picked up. But also the justs and the actuallys and the I thinks, and especially when we're writing emails. I just said actually, a woman who works in the tech space came up with this Gmail plugin, which you could put in and it will be like a spell check for sorry and for these, what we call these shrinker words, these justs and these actuallys that will hover over your email, and you will see, it will point out to you, that what you're doing is instead of being direct, you're hedging. You're saying, I just wanted to see, actually, I'm thinking, and you're not coming across as strong. So I encourage every woman out there to think about what they're saying, and we should be coming across as direct. We can still be warm and friendly. We don't have to be obnoxious, but you don't need to put in all of these, quote, shrinker words that take away our power before we're even out there. Ultimately, we want to come off as confident, and we're doing things that we don't even realize inadvertently are making us look less strong.
There are many guys who will listen to this and recognize what you're saying. You don't have to be a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the guys who hang around with the CEO, they don't do this.
Yeah.
But the guys in the mailroom who could be the CEO, they're paying attention to this. Yeah, I think it's
right.
It's good advice. And by the way, the other thing people say is, and I think I've done this myself, is I know you're way better at this than me.
Oh yeah, you do that.
But
you do that. You do that.
I know you know more about this than I ever will.
Right.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah. Okay, I'm taking your advice, Wendy. I'm gonna be
scrub it. Yeah,
right.
you can still be warm. You can still be warm and liked. But that's the issue. The issue is that women face this double bind, which is this sort of term that's used that if women come off too strong and too direct, they're not well liked, right? And to be a leader, going back to the election, we saw this with Hillary Clinton. She was not well liked. People did not like her. They knew she was smart, but she wasn't well liked. Okay. And likability goes a long way. Whether you're running for president or you're trying to lead a team in your office.
Here's the unfair thing. I think we're okay with hiring a man who is not liked.
That's right.
We don't want to hire.
Clearly, we did.
You know what it's like? It's like you have an ugly dog that'll keep the bad guys out. We want the ugly dog.
Yeah.
But the cute dog sits inside. The ugly dog stays outside by the fence.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. We want that. Wendy, I love what
it's a double standard. It's it's really hard, right? So women have this uphill battle with so much of what we're doing where we want to look smart, we want to look confident, we want to look strong, but we also need to be liked, because if you're not liked, you're not going to get the job. People hire people because they like them, not necessarily the most qualified people. They hire them because they like them. So we have this very tough balance that we're always trying to weigh of how do we come across and let me be warm and charming and friendly, but also smart, but not too smart. But I need to position it in a certain way. Let me tell you, it's exhausting being a woman out there.
Yes, it is.
Very insightful.
I concur.
It's very insightful, Wendy, and I don't think we've had this topic discussed ever, not in this way anyway.
No, this is great.
The book is fearless and free. So is the author. She's also fearless and free.
Thank you.
Wendy
She's
Sachs.
marvelous.
Go to her website, sachs.com. By the way, wendysachs.com. How smart women pivot and relaunch their careers. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
All right, we will take a break and we'll be right back.
Fox News Radio. I'm Dave.